Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to install your blockchain network onto a private cloud. So if you've been following along in this blockchain video series, we created a simple business blockchain network for tracking packages, installed it locally on Docker, and then installed it remotely on a public cloud, a Kubernetes cluster, and now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it on a private cloud Kubernetes cluster. Um, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and watch the public cloud Kubernetes cluster install first because I'm not going to repeat the exact same things. It's very similar install on private cloud. I'm only going to focus on the differences here. So there's three key differences I want to focus on with private cloud. I'm going to use the IBM Cloud Private instance that I have, um, or if you're not familiar with IBM Cloud Private or ICP, there's a lot of videos out there. You can go ahead and watch some of those. I'm not going to really focus on an overview here for that. I'm going to instead talk to you about the three different differences that I saw from public cloud to private cloud install. So first, let's go ahead and get started. The private cloud thing, difference you have to notice here is that we have 5 nodes. So this is going to be an actual, very similar to an actual production-like setup. We're not going to just do one node where it's everything on one box. We have 5 different physical machines, 5 different nodes. So very similar to what a production environment would look like. And because of that, we're going to have to do a few different things. First of all, before you even start, be sure you are the cluster admin. You have cluster admin privileges for this cluster. If you don't have cluster admin privileges, you're not going to be able to create any of the volumes or pods or anything else that you need to create when you go ahead and do this. So definitely get cluster admin privileges from your administrator of the Cloud Private instance. Second thing is you're going to have to create some shared storage volumes. Because we have 5 different nodes, 5 different physical machines, the blockchain network has to be able to share credentials and other certificates across the different pods and nodes. So they're going to have to be able to write to a shared instance. I'm using NFS in this case, and what you're going to have to do is, if you go ahead and you look at your storage, you see two different volumes here, a composer and a shared. So you're going to have to create those 2 volumes, again, using NFS. And what I did is I went ahead and created these, and I'll show you my storage YAMLs here. So I went ahead and edited the storage YAMLs, and there's basically 4 things that go on here. You create the persistent volume share, persistent volume composer, and then the persistent volume claim for shared and composer. And what I did, I found that you have to run these things separately. So if you edit these, if you see the original ones, they don't have this NFS in here. They have a local, kind of a local definition in here. So I added the NFS in there, and really you just add you need your NFS server address and the path of the actual physical path of where the mount points are. So you create these, have your admin, probably whoever the admin is, create the mount points for you, and then you can just go ahead and create these persistent volumes on your own then. So once you have these mount points, these 2 created on your on your cluster, then you're good to go. So get the address of the NFS server, create these YAML files that look like this, and then you can run these. I would suggest run these things separately. That's the only way I was able to actually get this to work, is if I ran it separately. So what you can do is you can cut and paste. So you can just kind of highlight the first one there, go into create resource, paste it into here, say create, and then it'll create the shared. Do the exact same thing for creating the composer. So run those, and then go ahead and go into your persistent volume claim and do the same thing. Run the composer and run the shared. These I didn't have to edit, so I didn't edit these at all from from the original YAMLs. So you can just use those as is and just run those separately. And then once you have these 4 things created, the 2 volumes and the 2 volume claims, and they're bound to each other, be sure that they're bound. There you go. Be sure that's so everything is up and running. You should be good to go, and that means then you can go ahead and run your create all script, very similar that we did when we did the public cloud install. So if I go ahead and show you what I did is just take the create all. I created my own version and say create all ICP. Open that up, and really all that does is just comment out the create storage piece of this, because I don't want to run that part of the script. Storage is already created. I just want to go right into creating the blockchain and create channel and all the other stuff that it does, right? So this is going to set up a very similar network that we did on public cloud. We're going to set it up on private cloud. We're going to have 2 different orgs with peers in them. We're also going to set up the Composer Playground, because we're going to need that to get the cards for the Composer in order to access it remotely and do all of our business network installs and everything like that. So really, the differences here, the three main differences, and that I want to focus on and reiterate here, and I'll put these in the comments below. 1, you have to be cluster admin. Don't try this without being cluster admin. It's not going to work. 2, shared storage volumes. You have to be able to set up the shared storage volumes, persistent volume and persistent volume claim. Set those up. Run those separately. That would be the 3rd thing. Run these things separately. If you run these separately and create these storage on their own first, everything else should work as is. So you go ahead and do the create all. Run your create all script. Shouldn't have any issues with that. And what that's going to do is actually create a number of different deployments for you. You see those here: Composer Playground, blockchain, our Couchdbs, our orders, our peers. And that's pretty much your blockchain network they've set up. And you shouldn't have any issues with that. Once you have it set up, and once these are up and they're running, they're in the ready state, you should be good to go. So just to take you really quickly, I captured my output. It does take a while to run the script. When I ran this yesterday, I captured all the output here, so I'll just take you through it. I did a create all ICP with Couchdb. I highly suggest running and installing with the Couchdb. If you don't do it with Couchdb, you're not going to be able to run all the blockchain queries in an easy fashion, because instead it will install like LevelDB, and that's a very it's difficult to work with, I'd say, on the query side. So you want to be able to go ahead and, if you're going to be running queries, install it with the Couchdb. But yeah, it'll just go ahead. You run through. It runs create the blockchain, creates a deployment. All the deployments for you. You want to be able to see that these services are up and running. Here's a little bit of a bonus, I guess. So I gave you the 3 main differences. Here's a bonus one. Clean up any failed installs that you have, because if you try to install this and you run like a delete all afterwards because the install failed for some reason, and you want to try to redo everything, the delete all will not delete some of the services that are out there, and that really caused me a little bit of a headache until I figured that out kind of on my own. I'm doing just some debugging and some installs, and what you will see is when you create these services, it creates it under the network access services. These are all the short names that the blockchain network is going to use to enable to talk to each other. And if you have some of these from a failed install that are still out here, just go ahead and go in here and remove them, and then rerun the install. So make sure you check these services that it's clean and you don't have any of these things out here previously from any kind of failed install. So the install goes ahead and runs through all these, creates our channel, joins the channel, creates the Composer Playground. Again, we're going to need the Composer Playground in order to get our peer cards. Runs through all these. This will, again, take a while to do. Install some sample chain code for you. We're going to install our own chain code, so we don't really care too much about that. But then you want to run something like get endpoints. So kubectl get endpoints, and then that'll tell you what the actual, these are all internal IP addresses that are running, but it gives you a good idea that, yeah, these are actually up and running. So then you can go ahead and test it out a little bit. And what we'll do here, just kind of quickly, you open up a terminal. You can see pods are there. Everything is up and running. So let's go ahead and get blockchain. We'll look at our list of cards. You can see that I have, if you follow the rest of the steps that are in the public, install video, you can see I've already, I have a local, I have a Bluemix, and now I have an ICP card that I installed on here. Same here on my business networks, my admins. I have a local Bluemix and a ICP. So I'll go ahead and bring up the Composer REST server, and I will use the admin at ICP. So I want to connect to that, and we'll take the defaults. Go ahead and bring this up. So I have the REST server installed locally, but I'm going to access remotely my Hyperledger tracking network again. So this is the exact same tracking network that I showed you in the other videos. I won't go through that in any kind of a detail. You can see I'm able to run queries. I should only have one package that I created last night, and here it is. It's in transit. So everything's basically up and running, and we're able to create our assets and run queries just as we would anything previously. But this again is all running on IBM Cloud Private, or ICP. So again, just to recap real quickly, same kind of an install as public cloud. Main differences: be sure that you have cluster admin access. Be sure that you create shared storage volumes using something like NFS, and then run those shared storage volumes separately from your main install scripts. And then the bonus kind of point here: clean up any kind of failed installs, and be sure if you're running, if you're doing an install and it fails, be sure you check this network access services and you don't have any of these services from a previous install still hanging around that you thought may have been deleted that didn't get fully deleted, because that will definitely impact your ability to install this successfully. You need to have all these things totally wiped out and wiped clean. Nothing created already before you actually run the install scripts, and then it should run fine. It'll take a good probably 5 minutes, or maybe a little bit longer, depending on your depending on the environment that you have. But that's pretty much it, and then you're able to get this up and running successfully on private cloud. So hope you enjoyed the video. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Email's right here. Feel free to contact me. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.